Good evening, everybody. What's up? Welcome to the 22nd Annual Garden State Film Festival. We are at the Shared Universe Podcast Studio Lounge. We are back for our fourth year in a row, and we're here for the 22nd Annual 2024 version. My name is Ming Chen.
CJ Cullen.
And I'm here with two amazing filmmakers with a film called A Day Out, screening tomorrow, Saturday, 8:30 p.m. at the amazing CRANFORD Theater in CRANFORD, New Jersey.
Yeah, right.
What's up, my friends? Can you please introduce yourselves?
Conor Champley, director of Day Out.
And I'm Ryan Hamlin. I produced A Day Out.
Amazing. So you guys are New Yorkers? You guys came down all the way from the city.
Yeah,
A whole hour drive down, or
it was a stretch, and we got the tunnel right at the peak traffic time, but it was worth every minute.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
You're dealing with New Yorkers, so it's like we don't own cars. So
Okay.
This becomes a special voyage
Right.
for us to leave in a way that we need non-mass transit to get somewhere. So
that's amazing. Can you tell us about A Day Out, my friends?
I mean, it's one of those things that I kind of like to say. It's like the love story without the love story.
Okay.
Like it's like the moment between the moments, and it's literally just, like if you get in that first big fight in your relationship and you go for that really long walk to contemplate and think about things and what am I doing? Is this thing worth being, spending more time with it, etc. Really trying to rack your brain, really trying to escape from all of the problems that you're dealing with. And this is like the first real time when you're just like, you know what, this is worth it. This is the thing that I want to go back to. And this guy, Ben, he gets basically booted out of the apartment, tries to find a place to crash, can't get a hold of any of his friends, and is basically wandering the city with his dog up until the point where he has a moment of clarity with somebody in the city that he just kind of runs into in a very serendipitous moment, like any New York moment really is. That totally changes his perspective on how he's looking at things. And so that was something I was really interested in capturing, because it's always like we think about, where's the moment where he runs to the girl? Where's the moment where the heartbreak? This is like introspection.
Where's that 80s movie moment? Is it going to happen?
Yeah, so it's it's funny, but it's it's sad. It's it's relatable, but also just it gives you that real stoic feeling of how am I going to figure this out alone? So it's almost just showing every journey starts with one person.
And Connor's kind of burying the lead a little bit here, because as he leaves the apartment, as he goes out in the world, and we watch him dealing with all of the things he's facing, camera tilts down to the dog, and at the end of the leash is just a floating collar with no dog. And everyone else in the world is interacting with the collar as though the dog's there.
Right.
And we obviously don't want to spoil what happens in the film,
Yeah.
but that's the visual moment I think that people are going to remember from the short.
It's a thing. It took a moment, and it definitely calls for a reaction when you see it. And I think that there's definitely a moment of suspended disbelief that you have to figure out what that meaning is, but it definitely gives you a moment of how does this relate to him, and it gives everybody in the audience a chance to really think about it from their own perspective.
How'd you go about getting the acting for it?
I had made a film a year before with the same lead actor, Antonio Magro. He is from the UK, just a really brilliant stage actor, does some TV stuff with The Alienist, etc. But we had developed a relationship with the first film we worked on called Sick Boy. Ended up winning the
Vimeo Short of the Year.
Vimeo Short of the Year in.
I wasn't even involved with that, but you gotta lead with that.
Well, wait, Vimeo Short of the Year. Vimeo. Now,
I think that was their first annual Short of the Year award. I don't think they had done that before that year.
And it was during the pandemic, so it was actually perfect timing, because we had submitted to a number of festivals, but they all ended up canceling because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And basically what the Vimeo Festival became one of the most watched of all of the annual ceremonies that they've had, because they've all been in person, and everybody was just kind of stuck, and it was just kind of right place, right time for that particular moment.
Right.
But it ended up getting, it garnered 500,000 views, and then it started getting a lot of notoriety.
You saw Sick Boy?
Yeah. You're kidding me? That's awesome.
Yeah, and Vimeo, a lot of videos on Vimeo. So Vimeo, short of the year.
Short of the year. I didn't direct that one. I wrote and produced it, but it was directed by Jillian Miller. Really, really talented director. But that was how the relationship with him started. Sarah, she was also in it as well. But then we went through casting with Erica.
Erica Hart, formerly of ABC Casting. She's independent now. She's actually currently casting The Equalizer on CBS.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So shooting around here locally.
I know a number of people that she probably casted.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she's been handling a bulk of the casting on that show, and she's a good friend of mine. So as soon as this project came together, we reached out to her to be like, hey, we've got a couple of interesting, juicy parts in this project that we'd love to find sort of the perfect faces for.
Yeah, and I always say like 95% of a director's job is casting.
Oh yeah.
And when we sent those descriptions to her, and when we first reached out to Erica about this, the selects that she narrowed down, it was like, I know that they're starting. I think the Oscars next year are going to start bringing casting into one of the
they
award
should.
categories.
It's overdue. Way overdue.
Such an underrated position.
Yeah.
And what she brought us was like, it made the job so much easier. But basically, it was exactly what we were asking for, and it brought. You started seeing these reels, and you could particularly see like, that is the guy,
for
or
sure.
that is the woman.
Yeah, like if they haven't given Molly Finn some kind of lifetime achievement Oscar and award, they're way undervaluing the art of casting for sure.
Yeah, and she was the one that actually brought the idea of Clark to our thought process, because we were looking for an old man on the bench. We were looking for someone who had gravitas,
a handsome, distinguished man on the bench.
And obviously a lot of people know him from The Wire, and it was amazing he was able to come out for a day to help us out.
Yeah, he went to the reading. He was really, really generous with his time. Clark Johnson, do you know? Yeah, unbelievable guy.
The Clark Johnson, that's awesome.
The Clark Johnson, and that was also coincidentally that ended up being our first day of shooting and our first scene of shooting.
Right.
So it's a heck of a way to start a project to have
most difficult
heavy hitters
scene.
in a park in Manhattan that we had gotten permits for at the 11th hour, and everything had come together, and we were off to the races pretty much from that point on.
Yeah.
How is filming in New York City right now?
Yeah,
filming in New York City is not bad. I mean, it's funny. It's like produced a bunch of jobs in other cities. Produce a couple of things in LA, and it's very funny. It's like New York actually way more outgoing to independent film than I think people realize. Even to the point of getting a permit to shoot somewhere like Grand Central Station is actually not as difficult as you might imagine. It's it's restrictive. They'll give you like, okay, we're gonna tape out like 16 square feet on the floor, and that's where all your stuff has to go, right? And like you'll have a police escort or whatever, but it's not prohibitively expensive. And for the most part, as long as you're not putting stands on the ground, you can pretty much shoot wherever in New York. And like the Parks Department is a separate entity, so we had to get permits for stuff like that. But a huge part of this film takes place just on the streets of New York. And as long as you're not disrupting the flow of traffic, you're not trying to close off a street. You're not doing any of the things that are like obviously no-goes. New York is super accommodating to independent filmmakers.
Yeah, and the last scene of the film was the first scene that we had shot, which was the most difficult, which involved the most amount of people. Yeah. And I like to credit Ryan for getting us that location at Stuytown Park. But my favorite visualization was he had to basically go to the principal's office of the school next to the park and sit in one of the little chairs, like waiting for her to come in and basically grace us with the blessing to shoot there while the kids were all out in recess, shooting and disrupting.
Like a scene out of Uncle Buck.
Yeah, like
pretty much. I mean, it's one of those things where like you think you've planned everything, and then you show up and you're like, oh, okay, so the park's okay, but where we want to put our van is not okay because the school's right there, and we haven't talked to them yet. You just kind of have to. You button up your collar and you try and remember you're an adult because you're about to walk into the principal's office and you don't want that. You don't want to shrink away from that moment. But yeah, again, I mean, couldn't be more complimentary of how cooperative everybody was, and
that's awesome because we were just talking about this. So many, even big budget features try to substitute like Toronto or Vancouver for New York.
Yeah, all the time.
They're like, oh, we're saving money. They won't notice. We notice. Yeah. Everybody notices. You can't. Yeah. You can't really substitute New York City. No, you really can't.
100%.
And agree. And they're film friendly, so you may have to pay a little more, but it's I say it's totally worth it.
I think whether it's like a commercial shoot, short film, student film, etc. Like you can get rights, you can pay a bunch of money. You're still going to end up finding yourself stealing shots. And walking around, which we're not condoning.
No,
but going around the corner, or and then being prepared in any moment, basically to if somebody actually, we're not going to condone.
Yeah,
we're not going to condone the bad behavior. But what I will say is, it's such a serendipitous place, and it brings such a texture to any film that can't be duplicated.
Yeah.
Anywhere else, I would say.
So this short, was there one particular incident that maybe inspired it, or what was the inspiration behind this?
I mean, I'm not going to say it was autobiographical.
Okay.
But I might have done that exact same thing at one.
I think we've all been through that moment where we might need to go off and cool our heads a little bit, and relationship drama, and whatever happens from that point on.
It really is. But I think that going through one of those moments, I think my fiance and I just got home from like a long trip or something, and anyways, I had to go for 6-hour walk, something like that. But when you think about how much time you spend thinking about these things, how important that thought process is before you have to go and share a moment with somebody else, I thought that was just it was at least worth exploring, and I think everybody can at least attest to that in some way, shape, or form.
Right. How long was the shoot schedule?
I think it was production was 3 days.
Yeah, it was 2.5 days. We tried to squeeze. They weren't that bad actually, because we always had the apartment to kind of double back to, because we had a couple of interior scenes, but they weren't small days. We had a one-hour walk and talk in Times Square, which is always fun and exciting. The only advice I think we have for that is shoot very shallow focus, so that you don't have to have people running around getting people to sign
releases or whatever,
releases for stuff.
Right.
And, but we did Times Square, we did Stuyvesant Park, we did a whole bunch of street photography in various places, because there's a big montage element to the film, and so that's definitely one of those things that you want to make sure. Like when I started talking to Conor about the project and he shared with me the script, it was I want to make sure you're aware that every time you cut in this montage to a new spot, that's a spot we have to find. Right?
Yes.
We have to pick up our crew and move them to a new spot and drop the bomb.
True, yeah.
So the logistics of making that work on the non-budget that we had was definitely part of that conversation very early, and that's probably the best advice I think we have is what you don't have in terms of money in independent film and in short film, you do technically have in time. As long as your shoot date is far enough away and you make that time to have all those conversations, hopefully you're solving those problems, because on bigger budgets, we both come from the commercial world where
they throw a lot of money at you.
Well, it's not even that. It's just when something goes wrong, you have a certain level of confidence of I do have money left.
Little safety net.
Throw at the
little
problem
safety
when
net
it
made out
comes
of
up.
money.
Right. As long as the whole thing doesn't go up in flames,
Yeah.
you have that safety net. And when you're self-financing things, when you're running up a credit card, again, not things that we would ever recommend people to do, but every day that you can work through the problem and just try and, visualize yourself on that street corner looking around, you're what don't I have? It's I don't have a bathroom. So maybe I should go and talk to some of the businesses around there and figure out if anyone will let me use their bathroom for our crew and stuff like that. So it's all the prep work you can do. You can never do enough prep. But I think, when you don't have money, then use your time, especially in prep, as wisely
Well,
as possible.
I think even cut down on just time.
Yeah.
And 2.5 days that's amazing. I mean, that's very quick. So,
Oh, thanks.
but 2.5 days. That's 2.5 days of feeding people and just
figuring that out, and Ryan definitely orchestrated that. I think also coming in with a game plan, really setting yourself up, setting the sandbox up, giving yourself freedom to kind of maneuver by setting up the boundaries earlier on. Like a lot of these locations were in a particular location, were based around a central location around where I live. But the advantage to that was, as a part of my dog walking route, I would always be able to double check and go to each location to kind of try to visualize where are we going to set our camera up. If we were going to sit here, where are we going to go? That kind of brought the storyboards out and kind of looked at that as kind of a Bible for a bit. But then once you kind of have that cemented in, that gives yourself freedom to play. So if that shot doesn't work, we're already over here. What if we put the camera over here?
Yeah.
But
and that also gave you a chance with Bradley, the DP.
The DP.
You guys had a chance to think about, because this was your walk and because you were going to a lot of these places, you were seeing them at different times of day too.
Yes.
So there was a scheduling element there too of we're not lighting these street scenes in any way really, because again, we're not putting stands down. We're not impeding pedestrian traffic. So it's then it becomes okay, it's very specific that we have to be here between 11 and 1 p.m.
because that's where the lighting's the best.
And then we break for lunch, and then we go to here to be here between 2 and 4. And we pick those times because these places look the way we want them to look.
Yeah, and the last shot is at the end of the day, which is the end of the day in the actual story, and just kind of like you said,
which was Union Square.
Planning around the sun is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize that, but it was. I can't believe we pulled that off.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
So tomorrow, Saturday, at the CRANFORD Theater, 8:30 block.
CRANFORD Theater, that's right.
And I love you guys are driving back and forth from the city.
We'll be there. We'll be there.
Time in the car is privacy time for New Yorkers. So,
for sure.
We'll be enjoying the quiet and abiding by the road rules.
For sure. And the CRANFORD Theater is amazing.
Yeah, it's a nice theater.
Our friend Doreen will definitely take care of you. And like I mentioned when you got in here, some of the best popcorn in New Jersey. If you guys
I love some popcorn.
That's good.
Popcorn. Last time I was there, I was like, hey, can I just go back there and just get my own? They're like, yeah, sure. And it was one of the greatest days of my life.
Do you take a bin and take it home with you?
I didn't. I think I could have taken a garbage bag full if I asked, and maybe I should have. Maybe it's not too late, but
you got a couple of days. You can sneak back in there.
I do. I just saw the owner. She's over. Actually, we can go meet her. She's over at the gala right now.
Let's
do it.
Yeah. So Doreen, shout out at the CRANFORD Theater. So great. Guys, are you working on anything right now?
Yeah.
That you can talk about?
Have a feature that I've been in the works for the last couple of years with some guys at Jars Media, and then my other writing and producing partner, Ari Kapados. And we're in pre-production stages and filling out some of the main casting roles, hoping to shoot in the fall.
Amazing. Cool. Is this your first entry into the Garden State Film Festival, or
it's my second?
Second. Okay, cool.
I had another one in 2020 called Alzheimer's.
Okay.
Yeah.
That one was virtual that year, correct? So.
Yes.
Okay, so this is your first in person.
First in person. Cool. I always recommend an in person film festival.
I love it. You guys are over at the gala. You're taking advantage of all the fun stuff here. So
meeting really, really great people.
Have you been to Asbury Park before?
I have not. This is where you have the See Here Now.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Music festival.
Yep. That's a big one. So
right outside the water. Yeah. You can smell the ocean right when you walk outside.
Yeah, for sure. Amongst other things, but it's good old Asbury Park.
Tonight it's a good aroma. Tonight it's good vibes.
It is. Yes, for sure. Well, congratulations, guys. Can't wait to see a day out and
and let us know what you think about your dog theory.
Okay, I will. I will. I mean, initially,
we'll have to see it at another time because we're stuck in here all day.
Initially, since I haven't seen it. I almost bought one of those things with the imaginary dog. I saw it on the boardwalk. It looked cool. Did not get sucked in, but now I might have to. So
we actually had to make 10 of those things for different types of what we're this is a standstill one. This is a dog walking fast. This is a dog behind us.
This is the stunt one. This is the hero one. Yep. That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Garden State Film Festival just started, everybody. Come on down, see a bunch of awesome films, gsff.org. And we'll be here at the
Here.
podcast
Tonight,
lounge
tomorrow, all day.
today, tomorrow, Sunday. Yeah,
Sunday.
we're here till they kick us out, my friends.
Yeah.
But we're having so much fun with all these amazing filmmakers. So thank you guys so much. A Day Out, Cranford Theater, Saturday, 8:30. Go see it.
Stay
And
tuned. We
then,
got a couple more coming up.
Yeah, then come on back down here to Asbury and check out all the films here as well. So
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank
Really
you guys.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you,
Thank
CJ
you for having
Cullen.
us.
I'll see you guys soon.